Hang in there, it is! Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Welcome back to The Smylie Show, the first, I guess, not technically postseason edition, but it feels that way a little bit. We were just saying prior to this record, it feels very foreign to be sitting in these seats recording the podcast at our actual homes.
It sure does.
I mean, you've been on the road for, I guess it's been close to a month now for both of us, and we had a blast on the road. But we're back. And how's it feel to be home, Smylie? Do you remember what your home, the layout, what it feels like to be around and sleeping in your own bed?
I've put away so many projects. You know how that goes when you're on the road and you're like, you know what? When I get back home, I'm going to do these X things. And I have no desire to do those things. And so I think that's why we're going to go out of town.
Both of us were on site at the beginning of the week, and then you obviously through the weekend had another great Fridays of Smylie happy hour where we had JT join the show, of course, but then we had, I think, Sam Burns and Wyndham Clark bombing the set, a ton of fun there, and then going on to the weekend and watching the conclusion of this tournament. And so as you might already know, Scottie Scheffler is your FedEx Cup champion with the strokes adjusted, the starting strokes. He finishes at 30 under, followed by Hulme at 26 under, and Sahith Theegala at 24 under. That's one we want to get into because he is only at 24 under by virtue of a penalty he called on himself out of the a bunker on the third hole on Saturday. So he finishes 2 shots behind Hulme, and then a group at T4, Russell Henley, Adam Scott, Xander Schauffele, all at 19 under. We can get further down the board as we get into the show, but let's just kind of start with just overall impressions of Scottie's win, how he, it got a little bit close on Sunday. It got down to a 2-shot margin after a shank out of a bunker, but he quickly, got those shots back by virtue of a number of birdies in a row. So just maybe just reflections on Scottie's week, Scottie's year, and then digging a little bit into the course itself, how it played this year, and how we think it's going to play in future years as the grass is everything we talked about heading into the week as that sort of takes hold and the course matures a little bit.
Well, we're talking about an all-time year. Scottie Scheffler just tied the knot on a year that I think we will always refer back to over the next couple decades, talking about Scottie Scheffler's year in 2024. That's how good it was. I don't think we're going to see anything like this for quite some time. I don't think even Scottie's going to be able to potentially repeat what he was able to do this year. Maybe he will, but it would be a tall task because the golf tournaments that he won, I mean, let's just be real here. I mean, to go and win the Tour Championship, you win a gold medal and then you win, I guess it'd be 6 other times besides that. It's just insane. He won against the best players in the world. I guess the only, argument you can make about his year is just that he only won 1 major championship, right? I think that would be the one thing you would say is that, hey, the U.S. Open, he didn't really have much of a showing. The Open Championship, the same way, and then the PGA Championship, he got arrested. So
yes. Which, by the way, interesting to hear him reference that in his acceptance speech with Mike Tirico yesterday.
What did he say? I missed it.
It just essentially reflecting on the year. This actually was interesting to hear him say that he'll never forget, or he said it'll stick with him for a long time. The reception he got on the tee on Friday, I believe it was, right? Because it was Thursday to Friday, like getting, coming straight out of jail, being escorted to the course, having an abbreviated warm up, and then coming to that first tee on Friday. He said he'll never forget the fan reception he got at Valhalla that day. And that's interesting to me, of all the things, of all the memorable moments he's had throughout the year, just the worry of how are people going to think about me now? I have this wholesome image, and then everyone almost unilaterally being in support of him, coming to that first tee for him. That was one of his most memorable moments of the season.
And this is, and I'll say this for those that have listened to the show for a while, they know how high I've been on Scottie for quite some time now. The first time I saw him play golf since college was at the U.S. Open. This was at the country club. And I just remember watching him that day and thinking to myself, like, this is some of the best ball striking I think I've ever seen. But that day is exactly like every other day. It's insane what he's able to do with the golf ball, how high he's able to hit it, how much control he has, and he does it day after day after day. He's, quite simply put, I think the best golfer that I've ever seen from my own eyes. And I've played and seen a lot of great golf, but I never, I've watched Tiger play in this era, but I didn't get to watch him besides on TV. So it's hard for me to really say, what I've seen in person, right? Like if I think I have a much different opinion if I had been on the call or played golf with Tiger during the years, 97 through 2010, whatever the years are. I would probably say, obviously like Tiger's the best player I've ever seen. Well, I just haven't seen it with my own eyes as much as I've seen Scottie. I've seen him play a lot of golf, and he's the most impressive player that I've ever witnessed. It's just hard to put into words how elite he is with his ball striking, how good of a driver he is. He has speed. He's so accurate with the driver as well. And now the putter's it's a strength at times. And it was this week. His performance and just his resiliency from a mental aspect, to be in that bunker on 8, which I felt like was the easiest shot he had the entire day. It was like a simple chunk and run bunker shot. And then he shanks it and makes a bogey, and then gets up on that next hole and hits it to 4 feet, makes birdie. Birdie's 10, hits a brilliant shot at 11, makes birdie. And then he was knocking down flag sticks ever since that moment. And there was a lot on the line for him. I really felt like he had everything to lose after that shank. And I think everyone watching probably felt like his wheels were spinning and expected, Colin Morikawa to have a really solid chance on the stretch. And within 15 minutes, like, oh, never mind, Scottie's winning.
I'll start by saying it's really heartening, encouraging to see that many of the world's best players have the wedge shanks right now. I think a lot of people are talking about that the wedge shanks are very common for some of the. It's a real epidemic right now. Yeah, I took some heart in that. I also really enjoyed his answer to someone asking about why he shanked it. Claire Rogers made the comparison for us, which was hilarious, to I believe it was Torian Prince. I'm probably butchering his name, but the Baylor forward that was asked March Madness, several years ago now about, how did Yale out rebound Baylor? And he said, well,
the ball.
and then when you get more of those in the other team, that's how you have more rebounds. And Scottie's answer about the mechanics of a shank was very similar to that. I think, first of all, let's kind of start with some stats. Let's paint a little picture of Scottie's year. Kyle Porter at Kyle Porter CBS on Twitter and X is a fax machine. He's got us the first of a few we're going to read from him. Scottie Scheffler earned north of $62 million in total PGA Tour money this year, which is $3.3 million per tournament, $830,000 per round, $12,000 per shot, and assuming a 4.5 hour round, 3,000 per minute on the course. Good work if you can get it. So I'd say that's
day of the office,
Yeah, it's not too many bad ones in there, even though it's amazing, I think. And to go back to the Tiger conversation, it's amazing to look at that year and think, man, it could have been more. If he doesn't get arrested at the PGA, he finishes T8 there, that could have been a second major. If I don't know how US
Open was never in the fight there.
And I don't think he was very comfortable at that course either. And he said as much. And I think Open Championship was a real draw situation.
The Open Championship is all about making the most of whatever your draw is. And I thought he did. Him and Xander both were in that same kind of area of the golf course during the times. And Scheffler, he was in position, just wasn't able to kind of get it going, and just missed too many putts on the weekend.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on cue.
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the jockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
I just think that the Tour Championship and just the playoffs in general just need reimagined because, you know, if Scottie Scheffler doesn't shank that bunker shot and Colin doesn't get up and down and doesn't get to two shots, that day was going to be a snoozer. And I don't think that's what the playoffs should be all should be about, right? I think we need to identify the season-long race of the FedEx Cup at the end of the year or whenever you deem it. You know, if it's at the FedEx St. Jude, like just set a cap at that. And then let's find a way to really get creative to make every single day impactful and meaningful for not only the fans, but for the players to feel like when they wake up every day, it's a new challenge they got to go get. And I'm not saying that this system is broken. It's just that I think we can do better. There is a way in which you can have thrilling finishes with this. And I've loved covering the FedEx St. Jude, the BMW, and all the storylines that we've had. And they've been great. Mm-hmm. But when you get to the Tour Championship and you have this starting scoring format, I just think that it could go wrong a lot more times than it can go right.
I agree completely there. And there are two pieces of what you just said that are both worth unpacking. One is venue selection. And there have been a lot of lines of thought or proposals that suggest. I think Tron Carter of No Laying Up has been the most vocal about saying, "Hey, let's get some of these West Coast swing courses and use at the end of the season. Like, let's do a Tour Championship at Pebble Beach." Don't necessarily hate that idea. I think you have to kind of dig deep into that and acknowledge the realities of sponsors and things that fund charities and fund the tour and where they're aligned and how you're going to make that whole puzzle. If you're going to make Pebble be the end of the year event, what are you doing with the East Lake Foundation and Coca-Cola and the city of Atlanta, and where are you kind of moving them in the schedule, and does it align with the health of Bermuda grasses and spring, fall? I don't. So that's one whole thing. You start to lead us into format, which I think is the big discussion that everyone's having, coming out of this. And I just love to hear, because I definitely have thoughts about this. We talked about this before the show, but what does an ideal world look like for you in terms of a both rewarding season-long performance and then an entertaining postseason structure? Because I kind of, the points you're making, Wyndham, Memphis, and BMW, or so St. Jude and BMW Championship, all three of those have compelling storylines. It's just when you get to Tour Championship and you separate everyone with strokes, where you can start losing some of that intrigue.
Well, I'll get there in a second. I think just as just to kind of finish that conversation on like Pebble Beach, for instance, for the Tour Championship.
I'm hitting you with double questions.
Yeah,
today.
no, I feel like I still like wasn't quite finished with that thought there. And you know how much I believe that we should be going to Chicago, New York, Boston during the playoffs, because I've played in the playoffs. I know what these crowds are like, and the support and that those events get are fantastic. I just feel like for our playoffs, like we have to be in the big cities with good weather. You just like, I love everything about the Memphis event. Like you have FedEx there, you have, like St. Jude is just, it's awesome. The fact that, you know, you have these patients that come out on the 18-3, it is a great event. But I think personally that event should never be when it is. I think it should be in the springtime. You know, that event should be in the spring. It should be a signature event. Have it be the first signature event for all I care. But Memphis, that crowd, like everybody's dying out there. It's so hot, and they're just trying to cram it in there because FedEx is paying the most amount of money. And I get that. They want to be a part of the playoffs. They want like the more, you know, drama. But personally, I just think that Memphis being one and then Atlanta another, like I would love to play East Lake every year, but I don't want it to be, you know, I think it should be similar like a Wells Fargo where East Lake can have their own event and then every now and then be a host of a tour championship and then have it rotate, you know, whether it's east, north, south, and west, and East Lake be the course that gets it in the south. That'd be great. But I haven't gotten past the point of that our playoffs should be probably played in Chicago, LA, New York, Boston, like these big cities, because why not? Right. It just seems so obvious to me.
I agree with that. Like, even as you're saying that, and to be fair, the BMW,
like Denver was great. Denver was awesome. Great crowds, good course.
We're calling Olympia Fields. That's Chicago adjacent. That's Chicago enough for us, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yes.
And Caves Valley is like Baltimore adjacent. So, you know, we're doing some of the city things.
Well, BMW does it. I mean, they go to different courses, different venues. That's what we're looking for. And I think unfortunately the tour they're just in this handshake with Coca-Cola, the FedEx, and just all these big sponsors that are paying a lot of money that, yes, the players are probably like, well, you know, if the tour comes and say, well, like if we don't play there, they're not going to pay you $25 million if you win the golf tournament. It's like, well, okay, we'll play Atlanta. You know, it's a double-edged sword there, right?
100%. And I think that there you know, what we all want to see, and there's like merging that with the realities of corporate sponsorship and available venues and timing, because if you're trying to take these things and move them to a different part of the year, it's finding the part of the year that gets rid of what's wrong with these events, which is, you know, it's insanely hot and humid in both Memphis and Atlanta in August and even leading into September, and that's makes things very difficult. But if you're trying to move that into the spring, which to me that would be my first choice, because, you know, especially with Bermuda surfaces, you need time for them to come out of dormancy and get healthy, unless you want to look at like an overseed sort of setup. So now we're talking about
that golf course with wind and like not being hot changes a lot. You have those wedges turn into 9 and 8 irons,
and so then breeze. You're looking at like the Florida swing, Texas swing part of the schedule in and around the Masters and the Players Championship. Not saying it couldn't be done. I just think, you know, it would. You really would need to look at the entire schedule and almost have like that, you know, Charlie Day, It's Always Sunny, like yarn board of like where this event's moving here because we want to use this venue at this time of year, and figuring out what makes the most sense because I think there's a great opportunity in the summer and the hot months when it's hot in California, Texas, Florida, the South, to do a bunch of these, you know, both New York City adjacent locations, Midwest locations, Chicago, places like that, where you could hit some of those big cities and larger, you know, fan bases, and do it in a way that also, you know, makes it, the courses will be in perfect condition.
Only argument about how Memphis and East Lake play, you know, it's Bermuda rough, and Bermuda rough really doesn't come in until sometimes even June. It's light, you know, in the South. Like July is like really when it starts to kind of come in, where it's like, oh, you know, I don't have a perfect lie every hole. So that's the only other thing about those two courses in particular.
just transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado. It wasn't just a big night of fights. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Good left hand from Rockhold. Right hand right back from Mike Perry. Now 3-0 in BKFC.
Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah, folks. What a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Perry on the turn. Right hand from Mike Perry. Double jab. Who's the king of violence? I am.
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
The reason why the tour doesn't play past, the beginning of September is because what's starting this week? The NFL schedule, and you do not want to compete with the NFL on a Sunday. So it's such a tough one, and it's so layered. And I agree, like in a vacuum with everything you're saying. It's just, how do we reconfigure this in a way that finds the happy medium? And then let's be fair about the criticism too, of like, this is the way we like it to be, but also we understand why it's set up the way it is.
Well, and this is where you're going with this conversation, was to try to reimagine what the format would be.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're keeping with the 3 tournament format for the playoffs, which it used to be 4, which I think 3 is actually a sweet spot in all of this,
mm-hmm.
that I think just the common word that everybody keeps bringing up is like, how do you make it a match play deal? Because some of our best events, when you look at just, the Ryder Cup match play, right? President's Cup match play, one that everybody used to like to watch on TV, which is no longer a part of the PGA Tour schedule, which is the Austin event, which used to be the PGA Tour match play event. It was a WGC tournament. Everybody liked it. It was a pool play format that went to a round of 16 that, hey, that would be kind of cool. Or if you were able to do some guys that make it in the top 4 that have buys that are not subject to the stroke play, portion of the qualifying at a tour championship, and then have a pool play format with, similar kind of how it is. I just feel like we've got to figure out a way, like I said earlier, to make it a season long race.
Mm-hmm.
And then playoffs. Like, we need to identify that these are 2 separate things. Pay the season-long race much more than what they're probably making now, and then make the playoffs be for, if you make it half and half or whatever you want to do. I mean, these guys can still double dip.
100%. And so I want to respond to that because I think a comparison in sports that works. I'll just say, to start things, if you're looking for what a straight up match play bracket could look like, or a pool play heading into a match play could look like, Friday Golf's got a pretty cool sketch of what that would have looked like this season. So you can get a feel for how the tour can potentially set it up and how it can potentially play out. And I think it's, make any criticism you want of match play, but you can't tell me that the potentially anticlimactic nature of that is any worse than what we saw even this weekend, where Scottie, essentially the closest they get is 2 shots on a Sunday. But other than that, there's really not a ton of intrigue. So I just don't buy that match play isn't at least as compelling as that, if not more so. Now,
I think we'll get there. Next year, we've got to, I really think that that you've got to make a change next year. I just feel like you can't do another year of this format. I just think it's gotten too much criticism from the fans. Even when you have Scottie Scheffler talking about it in the media, right? Like, you just don't
the guy
need
who
that.
wins. Yeah, you don't need it. And you were leading into this a second ago, and here's where my head goes on this: is if you were a fan of, you know, international, like soccer, really soccer at any level, but it's particularly like, let's just use the English football structure as a reference point, both the Premier League and the cup competitions that happen outside of it. There is the Premier League that is played over the course of the entire season. That's 38 matches. And the team with the most points at the end of that schedule is your Premier League champion. It doesn't matter how many points they are ahead of second place and how anticlimactic that finishes. You're rewarding that team for season-long excellence in the same way that, you know, you should reward Scottie Scheffler, even if he's a zillion points up in the FedEx Cup like he was heading in the playoffs. He should be rewarded for being the best player over the course of this season, and which he kind of essentially, that's what he's alluding to in his remarks before the Tour Championship. Separate of that, you can have what in that English, you know, or other European soccer structure are cup competitions. In England, it's, you know, obviously you have the FA Cup, and then at a larger European scale, you have the Champions League, the Europa League. So those things obviously are higher variance. A team can get hot and go and win that thing, and you know, but you're winning hardware. But it's just and they're, you can argue about which is more important to win, whether you'd rather win a Premier League or a Champions League, whatever it is. You're rewarding two different types of competition excellence, and that's what I feel like the Tour could do with their sort of structure. And you really wouldn't have to go too far to create something out of thin air. Like, I look at the Comcast Business Top 10, and I in some ways, it's weird to say this out loud, but like, I feel bad for Comcast because they have this thing that rewards season-long excellence, yet we hardly ever talk about it because it's like we already have the FedEx Cup structure in place and we're playing it forward towards the playoffs. Like, let's increase the size of whatever the Comcast Business Tour thing is. Make that a big deal for the, you know, maybe even those purses out. You're getting just as much to win that as you are to win the FedEx Cup playoffs. You know, whenever you want to end that, after Wyndham, after Memphis, make that a big deal. Yeah. And then you go into this sort of cup competition type deal where you're seeding into match play or you're going right into match play. And that's your playoff champion. And if someone comes out of nowhere and beats Scottie Scheffler and wins it, okay, that's cool. That's wild. There's some variance there. It's probably intriguing. It's probably a compelling television product. But it's not like Scottie Scheffler isn't earning his due for playing the best over the course of a season.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh my God, no.
So what,
to say it out loud? Oh my God, you can't say that out loud. No, you can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the book.
I feel like the first person to take a kicker in fantasy football is somebody that feels like, man, I had a really bad draft. Let me make sure I get the best kicker. The way I've always looked at it that way. Like, oh, I did so bad, so let me take Justin Tucker.
The key for me is, though, I make marks. Okay, this guy, I'll highlight him because I don't want 3 or 4 of these guys. I draft 3 or 4 of these guys and they all get hurt. I have no one to blame but me.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on Sports Grid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on Sports Grid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
let's flip the page then now to President's Cup, because we're recording this midday on a Monday or late morning on a Monday. And tomorrow we will have captain's picks made by Mike Weir on the international side and Jim Furyk on the American side. And so we kicked around the idea of doing some sort of predictions or selections. The way I've chosen to do this is I list the guys that I would pick if I was each of these team captains. So let's just quickly go over each of the set rosters of qualifiers. On the American side, Scottie Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, Patrick Cantlay, Sahith Theegala. On the international side, Hideki Matsuyama, Sung J M, Adam Scott, Tom Kim, Jason Day, and Ben On. And Todd Lewis reporting today that international team's scheduled to play Royal Montreal to get there. They're on a little scouting trip right now, getting to know the course, building some unity. So it'll be interesting to see who is a part of that trip, to see if there's any tips as to who's going to qualify. But
so I did see, as I was pulling out of the gates of Eastlake on 18, like this van with people getting loaded up in it. And I saw Ben On, he's obviously on the team. Saw another player as well get on this van, and I was like, that's kind of weird. That's you would think that volunteers typically they put all of the luggage in a player's courtesy car typically and drive that player to the airport in their courtesy car. This was like this big van. And so I was trying to figure out, I was like, this is different. Like, this is like one of those big, Sprinter vans that they're putting all their luggage in. I was like, I wonder if this is a little international team thing. Maybe these picks are already made. And so I've heard some rumors about somebody who's not getting picked, and I guess when I do my projections in my team, you might find out who one of those players might be.
Well, I'll say so. Let's start on the international side of things, and I have to preface that, but again, by I don't know if you want to share this or not, but there's been yet another breaking piece of news related to the number one player on the international team, and the IHOP craze continues. I mean, it's like it's at this point, it's not even breaking news. So we all know Hideki Matsuyama loves IHOP. That was your other international team scoop of the week, where you were all over the Hideki IHOP beat.
Yes. If you listen to an episode, I think it was Wednesday episode from the Tour Championship, you would have seen me talk about how I ran into Hideki's translator with a bag full of IHOP and also just drink carrier with these big gulps with IHOP printed on them. And then Sunday, as I got my luggage, I'm heading down to this parking garage elevator, and I'm waiting for the elevator to turn around, and I see the elevator to go up to the rooms, and I see somebody from Hideki's team with 3 massive bags of IHOP. And I said, "You've got to be absolutely me."
I think at this point they're trolling you. That's the only explanation.
How much IHOP can one guy eat?
I mean, apparently a lot of it. And this is something that I think we need to, again, I'm pushing for the off-season IHOP meal with Hideki. We'll have to talk to their team. They seem to have been enjoying the fact that we've been all over the IHOP beat. But let's just hope that there's IHOP in Montreal, because he's going to need a lot of it that week to keep him fueled up. But let's international team.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you projecting as your 6 captains picks?
Okay, as I sit here and look at this, I just think Corey Connors is going to be a no-brainer. Cam Davis is getting picked. I think Minwoo Lee at 9, where he's sitting right now, I don't think he gets picked, personally. And Christian Bezuidenhout, I think he's going to get picked. Taylor Pendrith is definitely getting picked based on how well he's played the second half of the season. Nick Taylor, this is the one that I've heard potentially is not a pick. And that one to me would be absolutely shocking. This is the player that I feel like has hit the most famous shot in Canadian history at the Canadian Open last year, sinking that long putt. Now, this may not be true. This is just a rumor I heard that he's not getting picked. I think Siwoo Kim gets picked. So how many do I got there? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there would be one other player getting picked. So you're looking at either Minwoo Lee, Nick Taylor, Adam Hadwin, And maybe like an Eric Van Rooyen, maybe Mackenzie Hughes, good putter. But this is just what I heard, that Nick Taylor maybe wasn't getting picked. That would shock me. I hope he's on that team because I think he should be. I don't know who you pick, to be honest. If I personally thought it was going to be Nick and thought it's kind of a no-brainer. I think Siwoo Kim's a no-brainer in my mind. So I don't know. What do you think?
So here's who I'd be picking if I was in Mike Grier's position. So I'm kind of looking at these things, and obviously pods have been in vogue in recent years. And I'm also looking at this from the perspective of it's been very difficult for the international team to win these President's Cups. So we got to try some stuff. We got to throw some stuff at a wall and see what sticks, right? So if I'm looking at the Canadians, I'm thinking like, what's going to give my team the most energy, the biggest bump? It's like the max amount of Canadians possible. So I'm taking 4 of them. I'm going Corey Connors, Nick Taylor, Taylor Pendrith, Adam Hadwin. Give me all 4 of them because I just think that you're going to get more crowd juice that way. You're going to get people back in the team.
I don't disagree with you.
And I think you either go 2 or 4. Like 3 is almost a weird number for me. It's like, give me. I want to be able to send out if I want to, depending on how the sort of pairings go. I want to be able to send out at least 2 Canadian teams if I need a little energy bump. So taking 4, I think works for me. Or splitting those 4 guys up and having a little bit of Canadian support across 4 different groups, that would help, I think. So that leaves me with 2 additional captain's picks. As you all know, we're very partial to Minwoo Lee on the show. I will not leave Minwoo Lee at home. I think he's a budding star. I know that maybe the season didn't finish the way he wanted it to, and just the season itself he had some opportunities to play his way in and play one signature event, and maybe just didn't play the way he wanted to. But I still think this is a guy that you want to play in these types of events as he continues to grow and develop. And so I got to have
It'd be fun for him to be on that team. I want him to be on the team. I just don't know if it's going to happen this year. He to me reminds me so much of like Keith Mitchell. Like just they're maybe not like similar players or stat profiles, but they both hit it long, and I just feel like both, just were so close to getting over the hump this year that just came up short. Whether it was just not doing enough to make that next event in the playoffs, and just I don't know. I feel like both of those 2 players are much better than where they finished on the FedEx Cup this year.
Well, I think I always think back on these teams to what Jordan Spieth said when he was on the show for the first time about how playing in these teams early on, and listen, I don't want to say unlike Minwoo Lee. I'm not saying Minwoo Lee's played terribly, but like Jordan obviously did a lot to earn his spot on those American teams early on. And then he gets in those positions, and that experience gives him the confidence he needs to handle the pressure of trying to close out a major championship win. And I think that if you're willing to take Minwoo Lee, even if there are other resumes that are better, you potentially give him some of that experience, that crunch time feeling for him to make a leap in his career to where now he's a lock on every President's Cup team for years forward. And it helps him individually too. That's the way I'd be thinking about it. And again, I'm thinking about this also from the perspective of you probably need to take a few risks on this team if you want to pull off a massive upset. So that's why I'd be taking him. Now, he's not even my wild card. I've got a wild card for you, okay? I'm looking at the composition of this team. I'm trying to find pairings for guys. I'm trying to find some young talent, obviously. So you can do a lot of – I gave you all the Canadian matchups, right? You got some good Aussie matchups in there. You've got Adam on the team. You've got Jason Day. You got some good Korean matchups in here. Sungjae Im, Tom Kim, Ben On. You can even mix up a little bit. You can do Broomstick Boys with Adam Scott and Ben On. And I feel like, Tom Kim, Jason Day, pretty happy-go-lucky. You can pair them with anybody, but I need somebody that can play with Hideki Matsuyama, that can bring out the best in him. I'm looking down this list, and there's a young star who graduated from the DP World Tour to the PGA Tour this last season. Didn't play great this season, but his last time out, T3 at the Wyndham Championship. Maybe gets another, I don't know if he's going to play in Napa, but maybe gets another crack at it. Ryo Hisatsune. 12th guy on the team, 21 years old, potential star in the making, Japanese. Let's do this for Hideki. Let's take Ryo, give him a little bit of juice, give him a potential partnership to bring out the best in him. That's my wild card.
Okay. All right. I'm here for that.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports Grid.
Try and set the stage for what should be a great year of NFL action.
There's a handful of teams that potentially can compete for a Super Bowl championship.
Confusion and uncertainty this year more than some in the past.
This team looks like it's ready to make a move, but we just don't know if it's bad or good this year.
J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to take over, but it's like it's a no-lose situation for them.
I mean, they suck. They were 7-10.
Only on Sports Grid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship.
The golf has been mesmerizing.
They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
Let's flip over to the Americans, Smylie. I've read to you the automatic qualifiers.
Yeah.
Who you got for your 6 captain's picks?
Sam Burns is a no-brainer to me. He's, I think, definitely going to get a pick. He's an obvious pairing for Scottie Scheffler as well, being that they're good buds.
How about what he did in the playoffs to go from, I think it's 13 to 11 to 7 in those standings? Just like went from maybe outside looking into like, you cannot leave him off this team.
Yeah, he really did. He actually he finished 11 under this week. So if you started at even, finished T13 in that format. This is where I think this gets kind of confusing, and maybe I think if the U.S. team wasn't already decided, I think that the captains and Jim Furyk and the assistant captains are probably trying to sort through what they saw at the Tour Championship. And so when you look at down this list, let's look at Tony Finau, who's 8th. Let's skip one past him at Russell Henley, who not at 9. To me, he just played his way onto the team. I think he solidified himself on the team at shot 17 under. I just think Russell is a super competitor, an ultra guy that's a team room player, guy you can pair up with anybody. Really solid. A player that's been inside the top 50 seems like forever. So Russell Henley and Sam Burns are my 2 locks, along with Keegan Bradley, who I think played his way on the team, winning at the BMW. Didn't necessarily have a good week this last week. We're just so admit that it's hard to play a week after you win. But so if we have Sam Burns, Russell Henley, and Keegan Bradley on the team, let's look at the rest of the options and like who played well, who didn't play well this week. And so Tony Finau, Chris Kirk, Akshay Bhatia, Billy Horschel. Let's just look at those names in particular. Chris Kirk shot 3 under total this week. Just a reminder, Colin Morikawa shot 22 under. Akshay Bhatia, 3 under this week. Keegan Bradley, 2 under this week. We already kind of mentioned that. We're omitting that. It's hard to play after a win. Billy Horschel, 5 under this week. And the other person who's near the standings, who we didn't mention, Tom Hoagie, he's not going to get picked most likely. He shot 3 over for the week. But let's stretch past that to the 15th person on the standings, and Justin Thomas. I think he benefited a lot with these guys playing poorly this week, and then himself having a really nice week, shooting 14 under. Not saying that this event is what gets you picked, but I think it was a really important week for Justin Thomas, while other guys are sitting at home like Max Homa and Brian Harmon, who I would have put in a bucket in a category of 3 experienced players that you feel like are guys that you can, go and put out against the international team's best. So Justin Thomas, with all the experience that he has had in these events, and I know last year, I think people are still frustrated by all the picks that Zach Johnson made. I still think when you look at Justin's season, it was very, very close to being a very good season. And when you just look at maybe the points are a little lower than you think they should be, it's just been the majors for him, just hasn't had quite the major season that he's accustomed to having. So, but when you look at all the other events, I still am happy with Justin's resume, how well he's really been close to playing really well. And you get him in this format, he's able to turn off the brain a little bit and just get into international team mode. We've seen how well he's done in this format. So I think Justin gets a pick. I know it's a long-winded way of getting here, but Justin, Sam Burns, Russell Henley, Keegan Bradley. So we got 2 more picks left, and I think they're really difficult to make. I think these are really tough picks. I think Tony Finau is where I lean. I think his ball striking, his ability to be a fantastic iron player. I'm really concerned about his putting. I think that's an aspect that in these team competitions, you got to be able to make putts. I'm a little worried about that, but I love the fact that Tony Finau in a best ball format, if you've ever played at home in best ball and you're playing it in a 2 versus 2, you always like to have guys that are closer than the other guys. And Tony Finau does that better than anybody. So I think Tony Finau gets a pick. And gosh, I think that Brian Harman gets the last pick. Although I could see a guy like Akshay Bhatia getting picked because of his ball striking. But if you're picking between Tony Finau and Akshay, which ball striker do you want of those two? And I think you probably take Tony Finau. And then Brian Harman to me is a guy that I just think is a bulldog. We saw it at the Ryder Cup, and I want to see more of it.
I can't believe it took me this long to the show to gloat over my one and done season ending championship, the FedEx Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, you were going to this whole thing on JT and the starting strokes, and I was like, wait a second. I picked JT this last week. I had a 7-shot start. We finished at 21 under. You had Xander and 5. You started at 5 under. You finished at 16 under. So JT,
yep.
Thanks for bringing it home. The inaugural winner of the Smylie Show FedEx Cup one and done championship. But I think that's very well.
Where do you land on all that? Do you agree with most of it? Is that?
I agree with the JT piece for sure. I'll quickly zip through what I had on my sheet, and first ones you agree with, like Sam Burns lock. JT for me, for all the reasons you stated, and just seeing him kind of play his way into form, really going even back to the Scottish Open was where I first started saying, wait a second, he had that first round where he played really well. Same thing, the Open Championship where he's getting the putter going a little bit, and you're starting to kind of see him seemingly get back to a place of comfort with that. The ball striking has always been incredible. We were looking at a stat on tee to green stats this year correlated to earnings, and looking at where JT fell on that list. And you're like, it's crazy that he didn't make more money or put himself in position to win more this season with just how good he hit at tee to green. Now you're starting to see the putting come around. You see a week like this at East Lake, and you're like, he's getting it back. So for that reason, and a guy that, even in talking about the major performances weren't maybe his best really the last 2 years, but this guy thrives in these team match play settings. I think you'd be a fool to leave JT at home, regardless of all the baggage that, exists from last year's picks. And that was a debacle in its own right.
I was out there and watched JT play a lot of golf last year at that Ryder Cup. He didn't play bad.
No, not at all. He was not the problem on that team. And so I think Sam Burns, JT on the team for me. I think I'm definitely taking Keegan Bradley as well, for the reason that I thought it was so interesting sitting with Keegan at East Lake and hearing him say that when he got the call to be the Ryder Cup captain, that within that first sentence of that phone call, they said, we want you to be the first playing captain since Arnold Palmer in 62, I think it was 62 or 63. And
there's going to be a riot if he didn't get picked, by the way.
Well, and it's,
I think Jim has to pick him for that reason.
100%. And I think too, it's if that is your stated goal, if you want this guy to be a playing captain next year at Bethpage, then you'd be crazy to not at least let him get some experience
Buy or sell. Anthony Richardson will be a top 7 fantasy quarterback this season. We're keeping this realistic here. We know that nobody would think that he'll be in the top 3, probably not even the top 5. How about top 7, George? Buy or sell?
You know, if he stays healthy, top 5 is not out of question here at all. He's a running quarterback. We know how valuable they can be. My worry is going to be what I mentioned when we talked about the Indianapolis Colts. Boy, man, if Pittman were to go down, there's not a lot to throw. He'll be running for his life half the time there. I like Richardson a lot. Small sample size of what we saw of what he's going to be. I played the 5 games last year before the injury here. So, or a longer season, we'll see if he gets to catch up to him, what he can do. He's going to have to prove he can throw the ball, so he's down the field here. I'm going to buy this, all right? I want to buy on Anthony Richardson. I want him to be that guy because I want to see the excitement that he can bring. I think, smart money might say go the other way because there's so many quarterbacks in that tier that, hey, he can have a good year and still not finish top 7. That being said, I think he will show, just like he did last year, he's going to be dynamic. I'm buying top 7.
Yeah, reminds me so much of Cam Newton in the early days too. I'm going to sell on this. I think it's too high. I think most leagues take away points for interceptions. If that's the case, I think his numbers are going to be 20-something touchdowns, 15, 16-something interceptions. That's going to negate some stuff. Yes, he will run. Can he play an entire season? Still very questionable for me. I have him as the 9th best fantasy quarterback at the end of the season, just outside the top 7. So I'm going to go sell on that.
We're creating a little contest for the fans here, and I guess we're sort of live workshopping this now, Smylie. But essentially, here's the gist of what we're laying out here: is we have a NFL survivor pool that we're doing, and we have a college football weekly pick'em contest that we're doing. We're going to use ESPN for both of these things. So stay tuned to our socials. We are at The Smylie Show everywhere. We're going to tweet out links so you can join both of those contests. The password to both is simply Smylie, SMYLIE, lowercase. And at the end of these contests, we should have 2 winners. And Smylie, would you care to just lay out there what the prize is for the winners of these various contests?
Well, as we're workshopping here, I would say that what I proposed was that the winner of the college football pick'em and the winner of the Survivor League, I'll play a round of golf with them, and it will be hopefully they live. It'd be sweet if they lived in Birmingham. That would be helpful, or around Birmingham. But if you happen to live in a city I'm traveling to, we're definitely going to try to make that work too. But if you want to travel to Birmingham and play, then we'll go play somewhere here in town. But I would love to have that be the prize, if you will, for winning the Survivor League or winning the college football pick'em. The only caveat I'll say in all of this is if I do win both leagues, I guess I'll just play golf with myself, which I'm totally fine to do.
Yeah, and we'll get that on video, just you being lonely and gloating, holding your little imaginary trophies. So that will be entertaining in its own right. But yeah, that is essentially what we're laying out for you here. Still workshopping the travel piece of that, how we're going to get you on various golf courses. But I think the headline is sign up and play these things, because you could be teeing it with Smylie when this whole football season, both football seasons are said and done.
And we're firing up the chat.
Yeah, we're firing up the chat. That's also in the works. We got Jax on the case, working on a few places where we can.
What site are we using for that?
I don't think it's a site as much as it's a platform.
It's a platform.
Jax has like Discord in the works. It's I guess you could call it an app. I mean, I guess it is also a site.
I'll go to like Discord on Google, and that's how it works, or what?
Yeah, I think I'm. This is great. We're just laying it all out here on just live figuring this thing out. But you can go, I believe, to Discord as a website, but it's like one of those things that prompts you to download an application that you can put on your Mac or I guess your PC, and then you can just pull that up, and then it's got all sorts of various rooms you can join.
That's where our group chat's going to be, right, for the college football pick'em and Survivor League.
That's the plan. Okay. But I mean, you just heard us lay out the plan for how this league's going to go. So this is all in theory, and we'll see what it looks like in practice. I mean, look, here's the deal. The worst case, you sign up, you play a bunch of games, you win this thing, and we figure out how to get you to play around with Smylie. That's worst case. Best case, you meet a bunch of new friends on the internet, talk football, find a way to pass the golf off season, and we're all in a better place when we turn the calendar and we're in Hawaii in January.
We our one really big goal, or at least the goal that I have, is that we have such an organic audience. We love, I've been on the road this whole year out at golf tournaments, and just so many people have said, hey, love the pod, love listening. And I think it's just a way for us to continue to get to know all of you. You obviously listen to Charlie and I a lot, just talking about our daily lives. I'm sure there's many of us dealing with a lot of the same stages of life. And then a lot can relate to all of our golf stuff, but we want to just continue to grow in knowing you guys. And I think, why not pick them Survivor League? These just seems like easy ways to get some good quality trash talk going on, and also to get to know you guys, hopefully off of usernames. It'd be cool to like meet somebody on the course and be like, I'm Ninja Turtle 44, like Ninja Turtle 44, my dude. That's kind of like what I'm hoping to get out of this.
Ninja Turtle 44, nice to meet you. I'm the Big Butterburger. So good to finally make your acquaintance. No, I wholeheartedly agreed. I think it's been a year and a half, I guess, now since the show's begun, and we've done a lot of audience building, and now it's time for us to kind of connect with you all on a deeper level.
I can't wait to overthink the Survivor League and be out week 1.
Yes. I fear I'm going to be in the same place. I actually did a test run for the college football pick. I did pretty good week 1. Pretty good. Right. They got like 97% of my picks hit. So we'll see. And we're excited to go on this little journey with you this fall. A little football, a little golf.
Next and last question on the college football pick.
Please.
This will be against the spread, right?
Against the spread, correct.
Okay, good. Just didn't want this to be some fantasy land college pick'em. This needs to be hardcore. How good at picking games are you?
Yeah, there are 3 options. They're standard, against the spread, and confidence, which I don't.
Confidence is dumb.
Confidence,
so of course, it's always 10 out of 10 until you're down 14-0.
Yeah, against the spread. That's what we're doing. We keep it, simple enough. So that's what we got for you. Love the Seminole coffee mug.
Out of coffee, so I'm out of here.
Out of coffee, very good. With that, we'll wrap up, and we will talk to you very soon.